A drifter came riding out of the West. You know him as Clint Eastwood. The citizens of Largo didn't know him at all.
What did you say your name was again?
I didn't.
Hello! In this video, I want to review probably the weirdest Clint Eastwood western, so just by seeing this short intro, you might believe that this is just another take on the essentially the Seven Samurai story that was remade as the Magnificent Seven, or that it's something like a Fistful of Dollars. But a big difference is that in this movie, Clint Eastwood enters this strange small town, and after killing local bullies that challenge him to a fight, to a gunfight, the town then starts to beg him to protect them against violent criminals that were imprisoned a few years ago and that will now seek vengeance on the town. Something like a horror version of High Noon, this movie is. I'll explain why. So from the very beginning, we see that Clint Eastwood is just not a normal gunfighter. The eerie score lets us know that at the very beginning there is something weird about this person. And so what starts to happen? Very soon we see that Clint Eastwood actually does not want to protect these people. He wants to punish them and actually ruin their lives for something they did a long time ago. So he essentially starts to troll the entire town and subvert the social order in it after they proclaim him their sheriff out of desperation. Now, if you want zero spoilers, then just watch the movie and don't don't listen to this review. But okay, if you are more interested in the analysis of the movie than spoilers, then I'll explain what's so interesting about this movie. So, within the first 10 minutes, Clint Eastwood actually rapes a woman. So that even in the 1970s was a shocking thing. You know, today this movie probably wouldn't even be made, although interestingly, today it would be, let's say, probably liberals and leftists that some people would call them even woke. They would probably be against this notion that the main character rapes a woman. Back in the 1970s, it was John Wayne who said that the Wild West was not about that. You know, John Wayne believed that Westerns have this duty of glorifying the virtues that built American society. John Wayne believed in this mythical version of the West in which white men brought civilization and Christianity to the wilderness. So at the time, it was actually conservatives rebelling and criticizing this movie. And you don't even have to be super political to just be kind of shocked by the fact that the main character is a rapist. But what to me then is obvious, and what I heard Clint Eastwood say about this movie later, the point was definitely not for us to see Clint Eastwood as a good guy. So Clint Eastwood wanted people to know, okay, this guy, he's not a good guy. This is not going to be just another story of like a gunslinger protecting a town from a ruthless gang. No, he's actually also evil. So this movie is essentially evil people fighting each other. You know, the town people are evil for something they did in the past. The gang that is going to attack them is evil, and Clint Eastwood is obviously evil. You know, he's a rapist after all. So yeah, but you know, even to me, the fact that Clint Eastwood is a rapist was very shocking, and I immediately lost sympathy for him. But it turns out that's what Clint Eastwood actually wanted the audience to feel. And so Clint Eastwood actually, interestingly, goes on to say that he wanted to do something very unusual with his first Western that he also directed and not just acted in it. And one way to view this movie is actually to say that it deconstructs this medical version of the West, of white settlers being here to express American virtues and bring civilization to the wilderness. I also read a review of this movie that actually even portrays it as a leftist movie for portraying the Wild West in such a in such a critical manner. And I do think that that perspective definitely makes sense. So Clint Eastwood was never really super progressive or anything like that, but he definitely was critical of this more traditional John Wayne approach to making westerns, already with the spaghetti westerns, but this movie really takes it to a whole different level. Spaghetti western heroes are maybe not like perfect, but they are not rapists. And yeah, so one way to look at this movie is actually to see this movie as a critique of the American settlers that conquered the West, and in a way now a ghost from their past is making them pay for their sins. One can now we can debate about what those sins are, like maybe racism, slavery, I don't know what they did to the Indians, but what this movie also quite explicitly tells us that even a sheriff will get lynched if he does not serve the interests of the rich in this town. And by the end of the movie, it becomes obvious that Clint Eastwood is actually a ghost. So there definitely is an interpretation that would portray this movie as almost a leftist critique of the American Western myth. But yeah, that's what I like about the 70s. The 1970s were really an era when anti-heroes became popular, but the anti-heroes were also not constrained by this new set of social norms that one could call wokeness, which makes movies from the early 1970s often even crazier and bolder than the movies today. Because today we can also quite often see anti-heroes, but when we see them, they are rarely rapists. The movies rarely have the guts to go so far. But all in all, I would definitely recommend this movie. It's definitely one of the weirdest Clint Eastwood movies, and I do think that a good argument in favor of the thesis that this movie is a leftist critique of the traditional Western is the fact that the writer of this movie also was the writer on the movie Shaft. The writer was definitely aware of like racial issues and racial tensions in America at the time. But yeah, all in all, what I like about this movie, it leaves a lot of questions kind of unanswered. Like what to think about this character that avenges the dead sheriff. And yeah, all in all, I really recommend this movie. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.